I browse Twitter every day, and it seems like every day that I run into some of the most vile extremist views I've ever seen. What surprises me is that, since I mostly follow furries, a lot of this is coming from furries. The furry community has, for me, been a place where I forget about real-life issues and just talk about roleplay and others as my character. But it isn't really that anymore. There are people now who want to ruin your reputation by finding some piece of dirt on you that makes you seem like a villain. People dig into your past, looking for anything even slightly incriminating you've said across the dozens of forums you've been a part of. They look at who your friends are, or even simply people you've had conversations with, and condemn you for it. And the sad part is, people buy into this. It isn't just the political extremists who hate you. It's most of the fandom. I want to say that it wasn't always like this. I want to believe that the furry fandom, even 5 years ago, wasn't a place where your political affiliation mattered. But honestly, maybe it was. The fandom has always been very liberal. Even 15 years ago, when I was a Christian, mentioning God or the Bible instantly got all kinds of vitriol thrown my way. Having any conservative views meant you would be alienated. People were too afraid to even admit to being anything other than far left. If you didn't follow all the PC rules, you'd be banned from public forums. You'd have to find people and talk to them in private messages to avoid being ostracized by the community. It's only recently that people have started coming out with their more conservative views publicly. So we have to ask ourselves, is this what we want the furry community to be? Do we want this divide? And if we don't, is there any way to fix the gap that's already there? As with any argument, there are two sides to this, and neither one is completely unreasonable. Surprisingly, a lot of people think the community would be better off split. For one, it kind of legitimizes furry as a hobby or lifestyle. If people outside the community see that the political divide inside is just as deep as outside, we stop becoming weirdo 30-year-old children who dress up in animal costumes and become real people in their eyes. If there is this divide, and we don't have to be afraid of speaking our minds about issues, no matter what they are, we have more to talk about outside the community. Furry becomes something about you and not just the thing that defines you. And along with that, maybe two furry groups is what we need, because once you are in your group of like-minded people, everyone is going to be more friendly and accepting of you, which is what the furry community is supposed to be about in the first place. When you find your group and political opinion isn't as important anymore because most people just kind of agree with you, the conversation moves on to other things. Isn't the whole point of this to put on a mask and not be part of the real world for a while? How can we do that when the powerful people in the community, the people who run the conventions, have a political agenda that excludes you based on issues outside of the fandom? Wouldn't it be better to have conventions and websites and Discord servers that you can go to where you don't have to be so careful about what you say? The more left-leaning furries have always had this, but with the community split, now the more right-leaning ones have it too. If there are two groups in the fandom, you don't have to care about the other side. It doesn't matter if your reputation is ruined to that group because you don't even pay attention to them. Their opinion about you matters about as much as people's opinion of you from outside the fandom. But on the other hand, maybe it's not so good if we make that split. We have a tendency as humans to hate things that are different than us. We don't like things or opinions that we don't understand. This leads to conflict and sometimes violence. If we gave up on trying to get along with those who disagree with us inside the fandom, aren't we just perpetuating that feeling of fear and hatred? We can get along. We can accept the fact that sometimes we need to agree to disagree. I follow several people on Twitter who I don't agree with on pretty much everything. Even though the extreme views in their tweets irritates me, I still like their art, or maybe I just like talking and debating them. And a lot of time, when you remove the politics, you see that they are still very kind, sweet individuals. I still value them as people. I don't hate them even if I hate some of their ideas. And if we just give up on that, if we just decide to hate each other, what do we become? Do we just stay among our own like-minded friends making fun of the other side and blaming them for everything wrong in the world? Is it healthy to just stay in our own little echo chamber and agree with each other on everything? And to be honest, we wouldn't agree on everything. Humans are more complex than just liberal or conservative. Are we going to kick out every person in our subgroups for showing maybe some of their opinions favor the other side? Then we just have two groups who both have the same problem that we do now. And if they split again, now we have 3 or 4 divided groups in the community, and at that point it's hardly even a community anymore. The mentality that we are better off split hurts the personal enjoyment of everyone. A fellow furry was barred from speaking at a convention for some tweets he made. It didn't matter that he was a staple of that convention and that he had been speaking there for years. and that many people look forward to going to that convention just to see him. All that mattered was that he wasn't quite as politically in line with the board of the convention, so now he's not allowed to speak, ruining the enjoyment of hundreds of furries simply because a few people in charge favor splitting the community in two. What about the convention that was closed for good as a result of politicized bickering over Twitter, where once again having this extreme split ruined the enjoyment of so many furries who had nothing to do with it? I want to talk about an individual whose blog I recently found. I don't know him, but he goes by the name of Symphonic on the blogging site, so that's what I'll call him. In his blog, he talks about how after 30 years of being a furry, he's leaving the community. I think that anyone who is in favor of the community being split should read this blog. I'm not going to spend 20 minutes going over it, but there is one section that really got to me. Symphonic talks about how when we go into this community, we are told that you will be accepted no matter who you are. We are encouraged to be open and honest and talk about our sexuality and our thoughts and feelings. But then often it's used against us. Sure, we're accepting, unless you have a fetish that people don't like or have some political view that isn't popular. And God forbid you post that publicly anywhere because it'll be used for years to shame and destroy your name. It's so sad to see a longtime furry lose his faith in the community and leave. Symphonic, I want to extend an invite to you to be on my podcast. I know you're probably sick of the political nonsense and furries in general. I know that you see it as pointless to try and persuade anyone of anything in this community, but I still want to talk to you. I haven't given up yet, and maybe if you can use your wisdom and experience to help me make people more aware of what's going on, maybe we can make some kind of difference. You know, the truth is, the fandom isn't splitting. It's already split. The argument doesn't even matter because it's already done. Whatever side you're on, you're already hated by most of the other side, and you'll never get away from it. You'll always be harassed by some of those people who disagree with you. It's no wonder people go to their groups of like-minded individuals and stay in their echo chambers, because it's the only relief they get. We have so many people on both sides who just troll anyone they disagree with until they force that person to run away, and they make fun of them for running away. On the other hand, if you don't run away and confront the person harassing you, you're seen as attacking them. We have both sides poking the hornet's nest and then acting like a victim when there's a response. So what do? Do we just stop talking about it? I've had people tell me that because I make videos on the subject, I'm just keeping the wound fresh. But what other choice is there? Do I just put my head in the sand and try to ignore it in the hope that it will go away? People were doing this long before I started making videos, and even if I quit, people would still be doing it long after. And despite whatever videos I make, I have people on both sides telling me that I'm weak or I'm a coward for not taking a strong stance. As if it's somehow a bad thing to not fall into extremism. If you're confused about what to believe or feel like you don't have enough information to make a stance either way, I have a message for you. It's okay. Don't listen to them. Don't let them pressure you into fighting for something you don't even believe in. When they call you a coward for not hating those you disagree with, tell them this. It takes no courage to be angry. And maybe if we do that and stop being pressured into hating our political opponents, we can fix this. Before I go, I want to get a word from some of my patrons. Kunix says, "This is a topic that really hurts my heart. I'm in the camp of people who still try very hard to believe that this community is generally one of the more relaxed and accepting ones that you could choose to be a part of. Maybe that's naive. I don't know, but I personally still feel more accepted amongst furries than amongst people in my everyday life. I'm still well aware that there are divisions within the community, and really, what can you expect? People don't stop being who they are just because you put on a costume. That furry, that person, still has ideals, beliefs, goals, and a whole plethora of other things that make up who they are as an individual. Furry is just one tiny aspect of the whole. I really wonder if it's the community that's splitting, or if it's just a division that's always been there, and it's just been exacerbated by the current political climate. I feel like I need to walk on eggshells no matter where I am, online or off. Everyone is so sensitive or politically motivated to the point where you can't make a joke, or hell, even talk without someone meticulously dissecting every word you say just to attach a label to it. Everyone's a villain, even if you just don't care or want to remain neutral. You're a villain for not picking a side. Hell, even if you do pick a side, don't you dare entertain the thoughts that the opposing side has a point. Whatever happened to being civil and agreeing to disagree? Regardless, I still feel like you're going to find more accepting people among furries. In spite of divisions, I really want to believe that there is a higher concentration of people here who would rather just not give a fuck and be your friend. But who knows? Maybe I'm just naive. Well, the whole walking on eggshells thing definitely isn't new. I felt that way inside the community with a lot of people, years before I even knew what liberal and conservative even meant. But I think there are a lot of people in the community who just agree to disagree, maybe even the majority of furries. But they don't talk about it because, unfortunately, they have to be afraid of being harassed by that vocal minority. I've often wondered if the community is split more ways than one. You have the far left, the far right, and then the majority of people who are just kind of in the middle and don't even want to talk about politics. They just want to wear fursuits and look at art and go to conventions. Translin says, "I'm not so certain that creating or residing in the divide is a good thing, or will make the community more safe and welcoming overall. It just makes it easier to target others. I personally have had a relationship that was destroyed simply due to politics. My views not matching their own got me called a racist and a number of other buzzwords. Normally I wouldn't care, but to have a good friend within this community turn on me like that, it hurt. It didn't change my mind about anything. All it did was end a friendship. Political views or allegiances are not what made this community what it is. Sure, politics are a big deal of life, but they are hardly what relationships and friendships are built upon. There is artistic furry commentary on political subjects, however, that is far from the reason we are here. I think when the furry community first began, it was more of just a fun get-together of people who liked cartoon animals. No one would have considered it a lifestyle. Furries were just very focused on doing furry things. But now we have people growing up with it who see it more as a lifestyle. Most of the people they talk to are furries. Most of the friends they've had over the years were furries. All the people they've ever tried to pursue relationships with were furries. Lately, I don't even see my involvement in the community as doing furry things. I see it as more of doing normal things. And like I said, politics are a normal part of life. So it's inevitable that it'll come up. All we can really do is try to be more civil with each other, just like you would with people outside the community. Is the fandom better off split? Should we keep politics out of the fandom? If the furry fandom is about being open and expressing ourselves, how can we keep politics out of the fandom? Because political beliefs are part of what make us, us. Tell me what you think in the comments. Anyway, I'm Kothorix, and you have a wonderful day. Hey everyone, this is just a reminder that I do gameplay streams on Twitch every weekday at 9 PM to 1 AM Eastern. And if you want to get a hold of me, the best way is through Twitter. DMs are always open. Finally, I want to thank everyone who supports me on Patreon and Twitch. You make all of this possible.